What's good? This is Out to Live, hosted by me, Michalesko. A returning face back to Out to Live. He was one of my first episodes, I think like my fourth episode. It's Hunter Kelly from Penn State, and then went to UNC Charlotte, and now he's here. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm great. It's great to be back on.
Dude, it's been a while. I mean, so when you were last on, we talked about how you were going to UNC Charlotte, like you had a couple schools you were looking at, and then then I think you broke it on my podcast when you said you were going to do it, and then I mean, how was that out there when you first went out there? Then?
Yeah, it's weird to think about how long ago that was, but I mean, it was great, and it's weird to think that it was already. I played 2 seasons there. I thought I was only going to play one, but because of COVID, we only played 6 games my first season. We
Yeah.
had 6 games canceled. It was crazy. But it was a great experience. A lot of good learning. Obviously, I was able to earn, a starting role. Both seasons, I played at left guard and right guard and center my first season, and this past season started all 12 games at center. So it was a great experience for me, making a lot of new friends, guys on the team and stuff like that, and being able to step up and be a starter and play a lot, which is what I really wanted to be doing. So it was great.
Well, before we dive deep into it, I don't know if you remember this, but song of the day. What's the song you're vibing to? If you remember, if you have one
Man,
off the top.
I'm a huge Kanye fan. I think I brought that up in the last episode.
Yeah.
I've been listening to the new song he released with The Game called Easy. Kind of disses Pete Davidson, whatever. That's what people are talking about. But it's just a great song overall. The beat, the Game's verse. I've been rocking that song since it came out, pretty much every day. So
okay,
I'm hardcore. I'm hardcore into that stuff. So
no, I mean, he's been on a journey recently.
yeah.
But mine's "Love Lost" by Mac Miller. It's an unreleased song. I just heard it came out in like 2011. I was like, let's go. So I've been jamming
some of the best songs from artists, man, are the unreleased joints.
Yeah,
like it sucks because we don't get to listen to them on streaming services. But when you find them, man, they're awesome.
No, you're totally right. I mean, I can't. I mean, obviously Kanye's put out a lot of stuff. I can't imagine how much unreleased stuff he has.
There's so much, dude, and I can't even begin to go through it. But I've listened to a lot of it. But there's so much stuff that he's like, yeah, we're gonna release this, and it just never gets released. So it's just like floating out there. It's crazy.
So you're a huge Kanye fan. Before we deep dive into your stuff, what's with this Julia Fox thing I'm hearing about now? Like he's, do you know anything about this?
And I don't. I mean, I only know what I guess everyone else knows. It looks like they're dating. I mean, he seems happy, which is cool. I don't know exactly the inner workings of it all, but if he's happy, that's great. I don't know if he's actually happy. Who knows, man? I mean, he was in a long relationship with Kim, so it's just, you never know with that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I only know as much as I can see. I mean, I see a lot of it on my Twitter and stuff, but.
Well, let's mention the shirt quick. What with your shirt? Who you rocking?
Yeah. So I got AI Answer.
Yep.
All-time Philly legend.
I love it.
Explains itself, man. I love it, man.
Oh, and then I got one of my new sweaters on. From Out on Limb. So we got that.
That's
but
dope.
you started something with clothing, correct? I saw something. You put out some shirts.
Yep. Yeah, I did. The end of the summer, this past summer, I put out a short little release for the HK merch line. Then obviously, a lot of people got stuff, and it actually went really well. Kind of haven't been too active with it, just there's a lot to focus on right now, but
I'm sure.
definitely hope in the future that I can definitely get some more stuff going and do a lot more with that, because I'm really into that stuff. It's not for the money. Obviously with the NIL and stuff like that, we're able to make and sell stuff with our names on it. But I'm just really into like designing shirts and merch, and that stuff's kind of cool to me. So hopefully when things settle down, I'll be able to start doing that stuff again.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I think I mentioned this in the intro. NFL draft hopeful. Well, hopefully, we hear this, in a couple months. So, how does it feel? I mean, just think of your journey so far, and we always dove it a little bit, throughout my first episode with you. It was Penn State. You transferred, and then now you just had 2 years at UNC Charlotte. Um, Kind of putting that in full circle. What are the feelings you're going through right now? Like, what are you thinking about?
Well, there's a lot of feelings of, like we kind of talked about it earlier, like uncertainty and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of that, who knows what's going to happen. So really I'm just doing what I've done since I started playing football and really just controlling what I can control, and that's training every single day, getting ready for pro day. I can't control, who's going to want me, who's going to, what team's going to want to pick me or whatever happens. But
Mm-hmm.
I can control the things, like training my butt off to just go out and execute the best I can on come pro day.
Yeah. I mean, so when you were in UNC Charlotte, was it? I mean, obviously the mindset was you wanted to enter the draft. So the first year, and then you played well. Obviously, you were starting, and then what made you decide to stick around for the second year then?
It was really just because I had a lack of film.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play all that much at Penn State, so I thought to have a better shot, I was going to need more film,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously was the case. And because the NCAA gave everyone that COVID year, if you wanted to
Right.
take it and have like an extra year, then you should do that. And I took advantage of that, had a whole extra off season. And really, in hindsight, it helped me a lot, um, with bonding with the teammates, because obviously when I went to Charlotte, I showed up near the end of summer before training camp. So I didn't really get super close with the guys. I kind of had to learn on the run, as we were going that first season. So having that whole off
Yeah.
season, I was able to be around the guys, really form better bonds, and then that helped us become a better team and a better offensive line unit overall. So that was really helpful, to have that whole off season. And then we were very fortunate to be able to play all 12 games this past season, which uh, we obviously really didn't get to do the season before.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool too.
How did you learn anything new when you transferred over? That stuff to help your game.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go to a different place, you're gonna have different perspectives, different points of views. I had two different O line coaches when I was at Charlotte. My first year I had Lee Grimes, and then this past season I had Pete Rosamondo, who was a great coach. Both of them are good coaches. And when you have different coaches, you just get a bunch of different experience, in terms of what they know, passing it on to you, and what how that configures with your prior experiences and stuff like that. So I learned a lot of things, both on and off the field, and how to be a better player. Just having different perspectives and experiences was definitely pretty valuable in making me a more well-rounded player overall.
Okay, so as you're going on this journey, do you ever pay attention to anything Penn State was going on? Did you pay attention, or was that just on the backside?
I mean, I paid attention when I could. We had Charlotte, we had a couple Friday night games and one Thursday night game. So I was able to watch some of Penn State's games on Saturday.
Hmm.
And I kept up with how they were doing and that kind of stuff. It's always fun to watch them. I still love Penn State. I went there 4 years, graduated. So I love watching them. I definitely thought they had a better year this past year than in 2020, and there's a lot of
Hmm.
circumstances that went into 2020 that people don't really see. That definitely makes it a tough season for everyone all the way around.
Right.
So it was good to see them have some success this year, and I'm excited to see what they're able to do in the future. But I definitely try to keep tabs on them, see what they're doing, especially because I had Still had some friends that were still
Yeah, I was
playing
gonna
there.
say probably had friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, over the next couple of years, obviously, I'm probably not going to know anybody there.
Mhm.
But I did have some guys still on the team. Cliff still on the team. So that was cool to watch.
So in UNC now, when you were there, what was like so leading up to this year? Obviously, you're knowing that you want to enter. You got to perform well and then enter. Uh, was it kind of like was there anybody like guiding you that way? Had an understanding like where you wanted to go, or was it just focusing day by day, going game by game?
Yeah, I mean, the way obviously going into the season, I know that this is my last season, no matter what happens. I have I have no more eligibility left. So obviously, from the start of the season, I'm aiming toward, playing well enough so I can have a shot, and going in the draft or, going to the NFL at all. Um, so I had that idea going into the season, but then for me, when we get into the season, it's a lot more just day in, day out process. Go in, always have something to get better with. And when you're focusing on that every day, like the NFL kind of takes a back seat just in terms of like you're not really actively thinking about it. You're just actively thinking about how can I be the best
Right.
version of myself today. Um, which is good because if we were always thinking about the NFL every day, we probably actually wouldn't get enough done. You wouldn't
Hmm.
get better enough because you're not focusing on the task at hand. And this sport really requires you to do just that. You need to focus in on what you're doing every single day.
Hmm.
And that's kind of where my mind was at.
Okay, so is there anybody else on the team besides you who is entering, who is entering the draft?
Yeah, we have a couple guys. We have Jonathan Alexander, who's a D back for us. We have Luke Martin, who's a linebacker. Um, Ryan Carrier, tight end. I think we have a couple of other guys too that are going. Cam Dollar, who's a wide receiver.
Hmm.
So they're also training for their pro days, and they're going to see what happens. And it's cool. I'm excited for them. They're good ball players, and I'm just I'm hoping for all of us that the team just gives us a chance, and that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, I mean, because the reason why I asked is because I'm thinking during the season, I'm sure there's an understanding of people who are probably going to stay next year, or people who either graduating or wanting to advance. So I don't know if you guys have like had like anything like if there's any you guys wanted to do some extra training to prep for this upcoming draft.
I mean, yeah, once you start getting near the end of the season, there's definitely guys start talking to each other about it, and like for me, like you knew that I have no eligibility left. I'm probably going to at least try for it. That's what guys I'm sure we're assuming. Um,
Hmm.
for other guys, it's kind of we had some guys we weren't sure like would they enter, because they were good players, and some guys who still had eligibility left, maybe 1, maybe 2 years, but you just weren't sure. So there were definitely some of those guys who we thought might do it,
Hmm.
and but ended up either returning to Charlotte or maybe even hitting the transfer portal. But yeah, I mean, once you get to the end of the season, guys start talking about it and start figuring out, okay, like who's your agent going to be if you're going to have one, where are you going to try to go train, all this different stuff. So those are talks are
Well,
definitely going on.
so yeah, and then you brought up that was gonna be one, the next couple of my ideas or questions I want to ask. So you signed with an agency now, correct?
Yeah, I have.
So did you when was there talks during the season, or is that not allowed, or did you have to wait?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a confusing process. I really didn't know much about it until this past season.
Hmm.
But you can talk to agents, sort of like you can't like sign anything officially until you finish the season and you're officially declaring, okay, I'm
Hmm.
going for the draft, I'm foregoing my eligibility if you had any left and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
So yeah, I mean there were definitely talks with few agents to just test the water, see what's going on, see what they thought. Um, and because they have connections with scouts, like pro scouts, so they can talk to the scouts and see, what's this guy's grade going to be coming out? Is he a first rounder? Is he a fifth rounder? What is it? So definitely talking to agents helps with that a lot. And you are able to do it. A lot of guys, it is confusing though. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's something that I started doing near the end of the season.
Right. And then was it, and then I saw a couple things from your stories you were posting throughout the past couple of weeks that you were invited to go somewheres to participate in like games then, correct?
Yeah, so I played in the Tropical Bowl down in Orlando.
Hmm.
I think it was probably 2 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a good experience. I was down there with other pretty good players, all stars from around the country, um, and that was pretty cool. Got to go down there and showcase what I could do. I played center, I played right guard, I played left guard, and we had 2 practice days and then a game day down at Camping World Stadium. And there were there. I'm pretty sure there were scouts there from almost 30, all 32 teams, maybe 30 or so. Um, but yeah, it was a really good experience and good to kind of test my abilities against other really good players. So that was definitely important to me.
Right. And so, and then this is more of, I guess, a personal question for just because I kind of think of this sometimes too, and I actually was just talking to somebody about this recently. So as you know, we were talking about with me with baseball now. That's obviously a possibility, but I have we had to have plans B through Z in case
Yep.
at one plan you have to always be ready. And so in my situation now, I'm gonna it's the I have to prove I'm throwing consistently at a good speed and good accuracy and whatnot, and then get the right connections to keep working your way up.
Yeah.
So it's either I prove that and I can make connections, or an event of what I did last year, a tryout, right? And that's how I got on. And when I'm in, for whatever reason, I don't know if you were like this too, especially when you went down to the Tropical Bowl. Um, I guess it's more of like a more anxious slash, not, I wouldn't say nerves because, I thrive under pressure. I'm sure you do too. Pressure is a good thing, but, it's like you see all these other people, wanting to succeed the same way you want to. And you're like, it's kind of like, intimidating almost because you're thinking about like, you're like, well, shit, where's my skills compared to these guys? And like everyone always goes in a room and they always kind of like everyone just scouts each other, like thinking what they're gonna be like. And what I found when I did my tryout last year, there's a bunch of guys, pitchers and whatnot, and I'm thinking about, or the coaches are telling me, go warm up, go get ready and whatnot, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna get in my own element here. I'm gonna do what I know and how just do it. And when I was in my element, I was, I was doing my warm ups and it took me over an hour, and all these other kids are done within 10 minutes. And then I felt I started to get in my little grind a little bit. Like I knew people were watching me, especially the pitchers waiting to get onto the mound. I knew coaches were watching. And then I got confident. Then I started talking to more people, opening up, having fun. I actually met a really great guy. He's going to come on a podcast soon. His name's Dan. He's like, I don't, he's in his 70s, I think, but he snuck into the first Giants Super Bowl and took pictures in their locker room. Like, this guy has an awesome story. But like, it's like I got in my groove and got just talking and having fun. But I guess I'm sorry for the long story, but the initial question is like, what, like with the intimidation factor, like how did you go about that stuff? I don't know if you felt the same way I did.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely normal to feel that because for the first time, really, it's different than high school. It's even different than college, where I mean, even in college, you have a lot of good players, but now, like you said, you're in a room with people who all have the same goal of trying to go to the NFL, and it,
Hmm.
is in a way intimidating because you're looking at a bunch of guys and there's only so many spots on an active NFL roster. And then there's only so many spots on a practice squad. So you're looking at guys that you really are, even though they might be your teammates for for my case, the Tropical Bowl or whatever, you're really actually competing against them too to take their spot somewhere.
Hmm.
Everyone here, it's now becoming a job, right? People want to make money. I mean, it's a job, and so it's easy to get intimidated by that. What I found that helped me, and you kind of touched on it because I think you did the same thing in a way, but it's you just focus on your own process, right? Like
Hmm.
you know that you're good enough to be there, right? Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be there trying out, or you wouldn't. In my case, you wouldn't be down there at that bowl game. So just focus on your process. Everyone, especially at this point, is going to have a different process. Um, so just focus on yourself. And I thought I did that, and it really helped me in a lot of ways.
So, well, then after the Tropical Bowl, were you getting any talks or any looks, or what was your mindset after that?
Um, so I didn't talk to any scouts down at the Tropical Bowl. They were kind of talking more to like skill players, and with offensive linemen, it's different kind of in a way because you don't have too many guys with egos and stuff. Like you don't necessarily need to sit down and figure out what this guy's personality's like. In general, offensive linemen are a lot alike in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of ways. But when we were down there, I filled out so many different questionnaires and surveys for different teams regarding like personality surveys, like asking kind of like weird questions to figure out like what's your personality like. And so we were probably doing that just as much as we were practicing like the physical side of it. So it's definitely, it's a lot. There's a lot behind the scenes because these guys are looking to hire you. It's so they want to make sure they're doing their research on you and seeing what kind of person you are through these different kind of tests and questionnaires and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, and and it's funny you mentioned the behind the scenes stuff because as much as you're on the field, showing your product, and you're essentially everyone's marketing themselves, selling themselves, right? And you don't realize the work you put behind the scenes. It's talked about like, oh, you put a lot of hard work in, but the step by step stuff, people just don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
no, they don't. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and like kind of speaking of that, like we're training for a pro day that involves what, like 6 different drills. You have the bench press, you have the vertical, the broad jump, you have the L cone drill, the pro shuttle, uh, and then you have the 40. And it's like
mm-hmm,
you're training, like I've been training since January 3rd, and you train up until your pro day
mm-hmm.
just for those drills. And it's like people don't realize, it seems like for the average person so easy, especially when you're watching a combine on TV, for these guys to just show up and just do this stuff. But there's so much technique and training that goes into these different drills,
Mm-hmm.
just so you can get your times down to as little as like humanly possible. So there is so much just in this that goes behind the scenes, let alone playing the sport itself and playing football. So there's a lot to it.
Well, it's actually funny you mention that, like the little nichey stuff that like it's coached, or the little tricks to get your time speed out. And I just saw a video, and it was by I guess an NFL trainer, maybe. I don't know if he's a coach or what, but he was talking about I think it was like maybe foot position, or the way you have to have your hands ready and whatnot, just to get like 0.3 seconds off of your time. I
Yeah,
was
I
like, that's
mean, there's a
insane.
lot to it. Like when we're talking about like pro agility, like the 5-10-5.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you're literally counting steps. Like, so from the start to the first touch, you're taking like 4 crossover steps, and then you're touching, and it depends on, where your foot placement is on the line. If you're going to be able to accelerate better, or you're going to take a weird little jab step that's going to lower your time a little bit. So, um, yeah, it's things like that that people don't realize, and there's so many. I didn't even realize it before I got into the process how detailed it really was, and it's important stuff though. To you might not think it's important, like these drills, like might not necessarily translate onto a football field for at least some positions, but for this big job interview, they're super important. So you're going to train them as much as you possibly can.
Right, and I'm thinking about, I'm trying to, whenever someone talks, I try to translate it to the baseball analogy for me. And so, like, at a showcase or something, there a lot of people were used to just seeing 60-yard dashes. That has since, I think they're cutting it down to 40 yards, because 60 yards, I think learn to be. It's like well, who's gonna do who's timing that? Like, why does that make
Yeah.
sense? And but for you, I mean, since Penn State even and then going to UNC Charlotte, were you always practicing these drills, or is it just like coming at the end of the season now you're kind of like really focusing on these specific 6 drills?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really practice these drills. I mean, you run them sometimes. Like at Penn State, we ran them to test them and see where we were at, but we never like practiced them to the point where like we were learning these little techniques and stuff. That really comes with like combine specific training, which I'm in now. You don't really get that until you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this stuff is new, and I was talking to some of the guys, some of the linemen that are here with me training, and it's like honestly the most normal I feel is when we're doing O line drills with our with our position coach there. That's the most normal I feel because when we're doing these pro day drills and stuff, it is totally out of our element. It's movements that we don't really do, especially with the 40. It's like, we're not professional sprinters, but you have to run it like an Olympic sprinter. And because you
Right.
only get what, like 2 tries at it, like when you show up on your pro day. So it's like being an Olympic athlete. Those guys only get one chance to run for the gold,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the situation we're in, where we're used to having 70 plays a game, where you mess up in a play earlier in the game, you can redeem yourself later. During these pro days, you only get 2 tries. So, and with that, it's like offensive linemen aren't used to sprinting 40 yards, and there's techniques to it and stuff that we're not used to because we're never in that position. So, um, I definitely, it's getting me out of my comfort zone, which is great. You should always try to get out of your comfort zone, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a challenge every day, which I absolutely love. But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So, I mean, and I've always I always thought you had a pretty calm demeanor in situations. It seems like you're especially. So I know you thrive under pressure. You've been in pressure situations all the time, and so. But when you're seeing like even dating back to Penn State, Saquon obviously he was a huge draft pick and you're seeing that process going along behind the scenes and in front of you and then you see other people going in the draft all the way up till now. Are you taking that into account at all, like thinking about like how they seeing what they used to do? Does that maybe give it an advantage, do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I find myself every night now. I'm either practicing writing down plays, like because some teams might have you get up on a whiteboard and write plays. So I'm either doing that or I'm watching videos and film of past guys in the combine, and I'm watching how they do things and how they go about it. And definitely having played around guys who now play at the highest level. It's definitely helpful to have those experiences and see how they work, especially from a younger age. I've kind of, from the past few years, I've figured it out myself, how to carry myself and how to train like the best, to
Hmm.
be the best. So
Right.
I've definitely gotten used to that myself. But early on, it was definitely helpful to see guys like Saquon, and then to get to play with and be friends with guys like KJ Hamler and those kind of players. It's definitely helpful to have all those different perspectives and experiences.
So as of right now, do you have an idea where a projection could be for you at all?
Um, not 100% sure, to be honest with you. Um, right now, it's probably looking like an undrafted free agent, just to be
Hmm.
completely honest.
Yeah.
That can certainly move up, based on how I perform at pro day.
Hmm.
If I can really light it on fire, which I'm aiming to do, um, I think I can go under the radar for a lot of people and impress a lot of people come pro day. And then from you only need one team to fall in love
Give you a
with you and
shot.
give you a shot. And there's 32 of them, so I like my chances and I like betting on myself. So I just need the opportunity, and when I get it, I know the team that takes me will never turn back. So
See, that's probably going to be something on clip for like an intro, maybe for a hype up video or something. Because like I don't think you could have said that more perfect in that situation. Because here's my mindset. My way of how I got to baseball, right? It's almost like an underdog mentality, and I'm sure you have the same mindset. Um, it's a cool feeling. Like my one friend, he plays Double A for the Cubs right now. He's a starting pitcher, and Joe Nahas, and he's a good friend of mine. We worked out all winter, but like in a way, he's an underdog because he signed as an undrafted free agent, and he's higher than people I know who got drafted, and just through the work ethic that is insane. And I think Marcus Stroman says this, but height doesn't measure heart. But like obviously the height isn't a thing, but um, I don't think a lot of scouts. I think in my personal opinion, I think scouts from any situation, any sport league, I think they only can do so much. I think Philip Lindsay said this because he signed as an undrafted free agent, and he said, he people can't measure that heart, that the grit to push it. There's people who have natural talent. There's people who work their ass off and put in the work, and people don't see that stuff. So when it comes to really showing off your stuff, like Philip Lindsay did, and then he balled out his first year and second year, and I don't know. I mean, he's kind of bouncing off and here and there now, but like the heart, I think, is the biggest thing, and no one can scout that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I pride myself on because I've never been just handed anything. There's guys who are 4 stars and 5 stars coming out of high school, and that's great. Good for them. A lot of those guys are here. Here's a scholarship for you. Here's a scholarship offer. I didn't have any of that. I went in as a preferred walk-on to Penn State, earned a scholarship there. Earned my spot as being number 2 center. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the playing time that I envisioned or that I wanted. Did what I set out to do. I graduated. Earned a starting spot at Charlotte. And so for me, it's like I almost take pride in the fact that I've had to work for everything that I'm at right now, and then have to continue to work for it because, for me, honestly, like there's no better story than a guy who had no stars, who went to school as a walk-on, who went undrafted, and then, became great and earned his spot wherever he goes. So for me, I'm excited for that. And like I said, like I might not have the size, I might not have the size in some people's eyes, right? I definitely have the size to play football. Let's get that straight. I have the size to play a center in the NFL. I'm 6'1", maybe 6'2" on a good day. But I have the size to play in the NFL. And honestly, what it comes down to is the grit and how much you want it. And, this is something I've dreamed of for years. And, it might not happen the first time. First team I go to might not happen the second time, but there's going to be a time where that I prove myself and the team's going to want to keep me around because I'm a grinder and that's just who I am. And that's really all I know. So I'm proud of that. I take pride in that.
And did you watch the Kurt Warner movie, American Underdog, by any chance?
I have not seen it yet. I actually want to check it out. I've been just so busy, but I definitely want to check it out because I've always loved his story. So I definitely want to see more about that.
Well, then the reason why I asked that is because I think you hit on some stuff that, because I watched the movie. I watched it pretty much when, a couple of days after it came out because I wasn't going to watch it on Christmas because, we're family. But, but because, I look for that type of motivation in my life just because, I look, in a way, I get where you're coming through, and obviously you're at an NFL stage, and I'm, I just finished independent now. I'm looking to get signed and whatnot, or keep playing, prove myself, and try to get signed. So, but it was cool watching his story and how he went about stuff because the dude didn't start until he was 28. Like he didn't, he had one. What hit me when he said it might not be with the first team or second team, whatever. But his situation, I don't know, and I don't know if you know his full story, but in the movie they showed he went undrafted. He thought he was going to get drafted, but he went undrafted, signed with the Packers, and then first day the way they showed it in the movie is, and I'm sure it happened in real life like this, but he's excited. He just got there and they're running a play, and one of the coaches comes up to him, I think it was offensive coach, and said, he's like, "Hey, you're in. Go in right now." And he's like, "I don't even know the playbook." He's like, "I can't do that because I don't want to look silly." And the coach cut him that day. He was like, "You weren't ready," and he was bumming. And it was interesting to see how that movie went full circle, because then he had to humble himself. He was working at a grocery store, as you know, and then when it came time for him to be in a similar situation, he was ready, and it didn't even hit him until after the fact that he was like, "Well, shit, look at what happened there." So it's all about, I guess, just being ready in that certain moment.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you need to do everything you can in your power to be as prepared as possible for that moment. We've been I was talking with our sports psychologist, and we've been playing this game since we were what, like 7, 8 years old. Like, since then, you've been preparing for this moment. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
when the time comes, you can't be scared. You can't be like, like, I'm at this huge level now. Like, I'm playing against like everyone's good, right? So you can't be afraid of that. Like, we've been preparing for this since we were little, and you need to have that kind of confidence when you're walking into the building. Um, and when you're in a situation like Kurt was, or kind of what I'm in, going undrafted, you need to stand out, and you need to, because they'll give you the playbook ahead of time, a little bit, if they take you. And when you show up to the building, you need to know that playbook, and you need to try to be the first one in the building and the last one to leave. And all that stuff will get you noticed, and you need to find ways to stand out, because I'm not, like I've said already, I'm not the biggest guy, right? But I can certainly be the hardest worker, and I can be the smartest in the room. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I pride myself in, and that's definitely how I'm going to try to stand out.
Yeah, I don't think the brains is definitely any question. I know you were smart even since high or since Penn State. So but so and this I hope you see where I'm going to go with this here. But you went to a couple camps, I'm correct, with like Lane Johnson. He had a camp, correct?
Yeah, down at O-line Masterminds. Yep,
Mm-hmm. And then when when uh when they won the Super Bowl and Jason Kelsey, having his little speech and whatnot, I'm sure you remember that as well. Um,
absolutely.
hearing what he had to say about maybe Lane Johnson or himself or all this stuff, it's like all this criticism is going to be there, right? But like, I mean, look how they turned out. They're literally two of the greatest offensive linemen in ever.
Yeah, I mean, for me, first of all, I've looked up to Jason Kelsey really since he got into the league. I have a picture with him, I think from like 2011. I was really little, and he was young. He had short hair, like didn't even have a beard. Um, and so I've looked up to Jason like a long time, and I watch his film. And I was lucky enough to, when I was doing an internship in 2019, I was down in the Eagles locker room after one of their practices, like in the summer, and got to talk to him briefly then, which was cool. But the whole underdog mentality, I don't know if did you see his the last video of him when he was talking to the team?
Yes, it was beautiful.
I mean, to me, like, that is the epitome of it, right? Like, he talked about being undersized. He went to Cincinnati as a walk on. Um, he got drafted, wasn't super high. It took work for him starting in the league. The fans wanted him out after a couple years. And look,
Mm-hmm.
he's a legend now, right? So to me, he has been one of my biggest inspirations, just in terms of, not even like, irregardless of how we're kind of similar in size and play style, but just the way he approaches it and the fire he has. I see a lot of myself in him. And hopefully, I know, obviously I've talked to Lane a couple times. I haven't really made the connection with Kelsey as much as I'd like to. So hopefully in the future I'd be able to talk to him a little bit more. But just kind of that whole mentality. And you brought it up about his speech when he was talking about everyone on the team was doubted. Um, and it takes me back to a quote. Is probably my favorite quote. It's a long one, but everyone knows it
Nope.
as,
Say it.
the man. I don't know the whole thing, but I don't know by heart, but it's the man in the arena quote. Um, and it really is not about the critic, um, because it's about the guys that you go to war with every day. Not just game days, but every day you walk out to practice. Every day you're in those meeting rooms. It's about those guys, those players who actually, even though they might fail, right? They're the ones that put their bodies and their livelihoods on the line week in and week out. And it's not about the critic, And I've kind of learned that there were times when I was younger where, people might say things to me that would bother me, but now I don't think there's anything anyone can say that would bother me because they don't do the things that I do every day. And
Hmm.
so, kind of hearing Jason Kelsey talk about the doubters and stuff, and you can definitely use that as motivation. I definitely do, because I have a lot of them. And so, using that as motivation and understanding that they can criticize all they want, but they're not in the arena. We are,
Hmm.
and so it's always been pretty powerful to me hearing that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm hoping you're getting hyped up to talk about this stuff because it's hyping me up just talking about this. Like, these journeys. It's the coolest thing to understand someone's mindset and going through it. My favorite quote of all time. I have a vision board I created like 2-3 years ago. It was actually like a spring, like winter break from Penn State, but it's right here and it says, "Set a goal so high that if you achieve it, it'll blow your mind." Like, and I love that because essentially, I mean, we're living it right now. Yours reality is very close, in my opinion. Um, and it's a cool thing to think about. But as an offensive lineman, do you feel, because obviously all the awards are usually handed out to quarterbacks or running backs, playmaker, names, and but as an offensive lineman, do you feel ever disrespected? Because in my opinion, there's a lot of good offensive linemen that don't get talked about as much.
I'll be honest. At this point, I've kind of gotten used to it, but I think there's just a general lack of like understanding of the O line position, like the nuances to it and what really goes into it. You have like you have commentators and stuff out there that that I watch on TV don't really know exactly what they're saying when they make a comment about a guy who missed a block. Where you
Hmm.
don't know the blocking scheme, you don't know what he's been coached to do, you don't know that stuff. So for me, I just think there's a general lack of understanding of the O line position. There's so much nuance to it. Um, but I mean, it's just kind of the role as an offensive lineman. It's you have 50 good plays and you have two not so good plays, and people are going to focus on those two bad plays, and that's just
Hmm.
kind of the nature of it. It's the nature of the beast. But um, we're all everyone who plays O line is very selfless. It's about the team. Anything we can do to be the best that we can be for the team. Um, that's just really the name of the game for us up front. And obviously there's been a lot of in the NFL. There's been a lot of big guy touchdowns, which warms my heart. I was at the game, the Eagles Giants game, where Lane scored a touchdown, which was super cool to see. Um, so hopefully we have more of that in the future. But we definitely understand what our role is, and we don't take it personally because we know the work we put into it. So
Well, another name as we're talking about it, I mean, in Eagles, Jordan Mailata, dude was a rugby player and got drafted seventh overall or seventh round, and now he has this big contract because he's a beast of a guy, and in my opinion, I don't know why the Eagles never thought about this, but why don't you run him in the end zone? The dude was a rugby player; he knows how to play that.
right, and I don't think anybody's stopping that mountain of a man. To be honest
I
with
don't
you,
think
if you're on
anyone's
the 1 yard line, he might take out some guys in front of him, like on his own team, if he's rumbling into that end zone. But I don't think anybody's stopping him. So you might definitely might see that in the future.
Yeah, I mean that's what I always thought about. But so have you? Was there any like physical gains you wanted to make, like maybe like way heavier, way lighter, or get more muscle, or maybe less muscle, maybe more flexible? Was there anything when you transferred to Penn State from Penn State to UNC Charlotte? Was there anything that you wanted to get before you get to this point?
Um, to be honest with you, um, I probably wanted to put on a little more weight, which I did my first year, but I found that um, being at a lighter weight this past year at center was more beneficial in terms of being able to move a little bit better.
Hmm.
Right now, my goal is to definitely uh, lose some of that fat that you put on during the season, put up the lean muscle, so I'm at top shape for come pro day, and then hopefully if I get invited to a mini camp or whatever, be in great shape for that. So they have us on a good meal plan here where I'm training. Um, they're giving us good supplements and stuff to make sure that we can reach our goals of from for me trying to get to about 300 pounds, which I'm about at right now. And trying to just kind of cut down the fat and put on the muscle and stay kind of in that 300 range. So that's where I'm at right now.
And where are you training currently?
So I'm at Test Football Academy over in New Jersey. It's not far
Hmm.
from where I'm from,
Hmm.
but that's where I'm at right now. I train 6 days a week, which is great. We have a bunch of good guys here, a bunch of good coaches that I feel are really helping us out, doing a really good job. So it's been really good so far.
Um, are you able to go home at all, or do you have to stay there all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I go home on the weekends when I can, because it's only about an hour from me. But I do during the week. I'm in my hotel room now. It's a nice little hotel suite that
Hmm.
I stay in. Um, but so I'm here basically 6 days a week. I'll go home maybe on Saturdays to Sundays are off day, and come back Sunday night. Um, but I'm pretty much here all the time.
Do you remember our first episode when you said you weren't you into some theater at some point when you were younger, correct?
I was, yeah. I did acting and all that stuff
Yeah.
like before I even started really playing football, which is crazy. But yeah, I
All right.
always did that up until high school. I was in the friggin' the musicals and the plays and stuff like that, and I love it. Still love it. Unfortunately, I haven't
I
gotten much of a chance to do it recently, but my sister's doing it. She goes to my old high school now, so she's doing it. So I get to kind of live through her now, which is pretty cool.
I was gonna say, do you practice at all in your hotel room? Maybe some little lines, just get in the flow of things.
I kind of sometimes pretend I'm in a movie sometimes, and just see where it goes.
just sing some songs while you're going out on
Yeah,
the O
I
line.
love singing in the car, and my training has kind of dropped off a little bit, but I still got it.
So when so you're at this point now where essentially what I would say it's 2 months away, I would say, or a little over 2 months. What's the mindset as of this moment? Like, I mean, obviously you don't know where you're going to be at, but it's just training at this point.
Yeah, just training, doing literally every little thing I can to get the advantage. Um, like I said, it doesn't end. We train all day, right? So I'm there from 9 in the morning where I start warming up and stretching and all that stuff, and we're there running drills and doing positional work and lifting until you know 3:30, and then you get treatment for any aches or pains or whatever for an hour, and so you're leaving there by 4 o'clock, 4:30 every day. Then you come home and I have to eat 5,400 calories every day, so I'm literally nonstop eating um, from the meals they give us. So it's all day. But yeah, the mindset's just training, doing anything I can. When I get back to the hotel room and I have free time, like I said, I'll watch videos on Combine. I'll practice drawing up plays. I'll even go through some offensive line technique on my own here in the room,
Hmm.
and just kind of lock in on little things and just just try to get that advantage any little chance I can.
Does it get repetitive? Because I know when I do baseball stuff, like I'm currently, it's like I feel like I'm like a move or two off from not. I would say, no one's perfect, but I would say I'm close to perfecting like a movement that I'm trying to do, and when I catch myself doing it every day, it's so repetitive. But it's like it's like a mindset you have to do it.
I mean, yeah, it is repetitive, especially like I said, we're doing 6 drills, and really we're practicing three of them really every day. It's the 40, the L cone, and the 5-10-5, the pro shuttle. And
Mm-hmm.
so it does get repetitive, but the thing is like that's just the nature of our sports. And if you want to be elite and you want to be great at what you do, I mean, you have to find the fire for the little things. You have to
Mm-hmm.
find why you love doing those little things, and it can be monotonous at times. There's days where you don't want to go in. There's days, but to me, it's like this is so cool. Like we're done school. We had that point in our lives is done. We can now go and train and try to reach our dreams. And it's like when you look at it like that, instead of like, because it's easy to look at, like, especially what I'm doing and what you do, like, I have to do this, or I have, when you change the perspective and say, oh, I get to show up and do this,
Mm-hmm.
I get the opportunity to, try to live out my dream. Like, those monotonous things aren't as monotonous because you look at it every day and you're like, this is pretty, damn cool, So
It
that's the way I look at it every day. It's fantastic.
and it's cool. You hit on some good points there, but it's cool when you look at it because I mean, think of our age and where we're at, right? How many other people get to do that little opportunity? It's something you worked your ass off for. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely doubters across every time you go. Like I can't tell you how many people I heard, because I didn't want to promote that I was playing professional because I don't feel I'm professional until I actually signed a contract like with an affiliate team. But it is technically professional. But it's like how many, I think my sister posted something like proud of your son on Instagram, right? And the amount of like little things I heard about people just talking shit, like they're like, oh, I knew it. Like there's one person specifically where I was told they were like, well, I thought there were so many people better than him back in the day, and I was like, okay, well, good for you. I was like, one, you don't talk to me anymore, so I don't give a shit what you think. And like two, I know I put in all the work, so I don't give a shit at all what you think.
Right, right. I mean,
um,
that's the thing, is like it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't. Like, and I've learned to I'm sure there's people that see me post about this stuff, and I'm sure there's still people, like, there were people in high school who thought, oh man, he's not a D1 football player. Like, he's not going to play D1. And like that bothered me at the time. And then I went out and did it. And, I was a D1 football player. So I'm sure there's people holding their breaths now and under their breath, they're like, he's not going to get in the NFL. And
or they're hoping you don't make it because they're jealous at that point.
yeah, no doubt. There's definitely people like that out there, which I'll never understand. Like, just be happy in your own life and be secure in your own life. But,
That's the point.
you
They're not.
know, yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's just like, for those people, it's kind of, you just kind of like smile and you're like, that, that, because honestly, if they really didn't care, they wouldn't care, and they really wouldn't even have the energy to even say anything. But the fact that they are, it tells you that they're upset that they can't be doing what we're doing. And
Hmm.
you know, to me, that's cool. I take pride in that. I worked hard to get here. It's not like,
Yeah,
that's the thing, is people get mad and they're like, he thinks he's so good and he's, training to go in the NFL, like, oh God, but they didn't work. They didn't do half the stuff I did, and it's,
and they're living a
so that's
life where
why I
they're
don't even
regretting.
get angry anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. um, and that's the cool thing, and you're completely right. Like and obviously, like I said, you have to have a plan A through Z just in case. Always because they don't want to be stupid either about it either. Because I know of so many people who banked on going somewhere, and if they get cut or something, they're like, now what? You don't want that. I want money to never be an issue. So I want to have passive income and all that good stuff as well. So, um, but do you for where you're at right now? Oh yeah, well I'll ask you this: do you have plans A through Z? Do you have any plans like also like to continue? Like obviously you were broadcasting, so did you have any plans with that at all or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I have backup plans for sure. But I was talking to my mom about this not too not too long ago, but I've worked so hard for this that really I do have backup plans, which is good. You need to have them. But for me, like failure is not an option. Like there's
Right.
no option to not make it. Like I'm
Hmm.
gonna make it. I have to make it because I've just worked too hard for it.
Right.
So yes, there are backup plans which you need to have just to be safe. But I'm gonna make it, and that's just really the bottom line. There's no other option.
And I love that you said that because that is the mindset I have on top of saying I have plans A through Z. It's plan A through Z are gonna work. I don't care what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like just because baseball is gonna be there doesn't mean I want my brand to rise and all of my other stuff that I want to accomplish. Like Draymond literally just announced that he just signed with Turner. Like he's gonna do like some inside stuff. Like he's gonna be like that's that's broadcasting essentially. Like it's like I want all that stuff to work. So yes, you have backup plans, but all that stuff it'll work. It's just that's just the mindset.
Yeah, I mean, if you go into it thinking like, this might not work, well, the minute you start thinking like that, it probably is not going to work.
Right.
You need to envision it, and you need to have that image like so clear in your head of I'm gonna make it. This is what it's gonna look like. This is what my life is gonna look like. This is what it's gonna look like when I make it in the league, whether it's on the practice squad in your first year or two, or whether it's on an active roster. This is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to
Mhm.
sound like. This is what it's going to friggin' smell like. Like, this is what it's going to be. You need to envision it so clearly that it eventually becomes reality because, like I said before, you have no other choice. Like, it's going to happen. And when you think like that, the chances of it happening are way higher.
Hmm. Yeah, and you're totally right. And obviously there's usually a window where age wise and whatnot, but at the same time there it is. I'm going to give you, and I don't know if you've heard of this story. You might have. It was Buccaneers. He's their current, I think, long snapper. This was 2 years ago. So right before they won the Super Bowl, for years of, I guess years, I think he went, he didn't get drafted. I don't think, and I know he didn't get drafted, but then, he didn't know what to do. So he knew he still wanted to play, right? He knew he wanted to be in the NFL. He had a finance job, and after his job, he would go work. After his job, he'd go train every day, and because he knew he wanted that opportunity, and he got a little opportunity, and he ended up signing with Tampa Bay, and then that's when they signed Tom Brady, and then that year they won the Super Bowl, and now he's an NFL player and quit his job. It's like he kept working at it, and that's the thing. Like no matter what, you're gonna train, you're gonna make it, and that's the mindset. That's the mindset I have, and it's like it's scary, but it's big possibility. And you're right, envisioning is the biggest part out of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, and there's different ways of motivation. We were just talking about this with our sports psychologist. Like, there's different modes of motivation. So, like, you need to be largely internally motivated when you're at the level that I'm at and that you're at trying to
Hmm.
achieve. You need to be largely internally motivated. Like, you can't bank on external factors, but certainly external factors can push you in that direction, right? Like there's so many people that have gotten you and I and a bunch of other people to the position we're at today. Like my parents. Like I would not be in this position without them. All the sacrifices they've made, and the sacrifices my sister has made by coming to my games and financially with my parents, paying to go to Penn State and all that, and paying to play and now I have an agent, so like I'm responsible to him as well, like so when you have those kind of motivations, they can help you too in terms of like who are the people that have sacrificed things for you and who are the people that continue to sacrifice things for you. When you think of things like that, it can really push you even harder to, even if you don't make it the first time, like you were talking about with the guy from the Bucks, like you don't make it the first time. Well, there's still people that, have sacrificed a lot for this. And other than you and I have probably sacrificed the most, but there's other people who have sacrificed to help you get to where you're at. And you need to make it for those people as well. And you can use that as motivation, which I do
Hmm.
every day. And it's like, these people put a lot on the line and risked a lot for you. And, so even if you don't make it, you got to keep trying until you do, because there's people
Hmm.
counting on you. And that's
Well,
just how it
it,
is.
that's exactly how I think. I think I've been saying it my whole life, and and then I made it, and then I made it into a goal. My mentor actually was the one who pushed me to go to that tryout last year, because I said I think I gotta wait one more year to get my speed up there, and my speed's there now. But he was like, "Dude, you're ready now," and I did it, and but now I learned so much from that one season. Not one. I mean, one of the things I set out to when I went there was I'm going to be the hardest worker. I don't care who's there. I don't care what country they're from. I was like, I'm going to be the hardest worker there, and I don't care what anyone says. And that was the only thing that mattered to me, because I knew the hard work would then get into where I needed to be. And my dumb ass decided to, when I was pitching, try two new motions and whatnot to see what I could do against or batters who were signed in the affiliate ball and whatnot. And it was dumb for the beginning part, but then I got in my rhythm and I learned what I could do. I learned how to push my body, which was the coolest part. And then on top of that, after the season, my friend actually just randomly touched base with me recently and was like, um, he told me he retired at like 25 now he is, and he told me they retired, and I was bummed out by that. And then, but he came out of nowhere and mentioned, and he's like, dude, I'm telling you right now, do not stop. He's like, keep going. He goes, you were by far the hardest worker there. Everyone knew it. And then he said, and he's like, and he got to town. He's like, do not stop. And it was so cool to hear that encouragement, because no one says that stuff, but they notice it, and that was the coolest thing. I was like, I didn't had no idea he thought that way. It was the coolest thing to think about.
Yeah, and it's good to hear that. I mean, that's definitely good to hear, because we don't get praise enough, and you probably don't get praise enough. But when you hear it, for you, you should use that for sure, which I know you will. But
Hmm.
use that even when times like you're feeling a little maybe insecure in the way you're playing, and you're not sure about things, or you're maybe intimidated by some guys. Just understand and use the fact that people see how hard you work, and use that as your security. Use that as your, confidence booster, to know I'm here for a reason. And, that guy's absolutely right. Like, you just got to keep going, man. Like, everyone thinks that they're at their limit when they're really not even close to it. So you just got to keep going and just keep grinding. And I know, I'm sure that you'll definitely make it. So just keep going,
Well,
man.
well, and I appreciate it, and but I'm thinking about, because it's hard not to have like people obviously are negative and whatnot, or you think about people judging you because like you mentioned, like they're like that, it's like, you think that sometimes, like, people judge you because now you're living a different life than what normal society is normal. You get out of college and then you get a job, but we're doing something different, and that's what I love about it. That's the whole point of the brand. No more normal sucks, be different. And that's what I love about it. So, I mean, do you ever think those times that people think about that about you?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean, it's, I've known people that kind of just don't understand, one, what it takes, and two, don't understand the work we've put in. Like I've said a bunch of times already, don't understand the work
Hmm.
we've put in. And we are in such of a minority of people in terms of how, our athletic abilities and our work ethic. And we're kind of rewarded for that, because we're able to pursue these dreams of playing a professional sport. And it's sometimes I do have to like pinch myself, and I'm like, dude, like I'm training for a game. Like I get to hopefully play a game for a living. Like that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
I don't have to go to a typical 9 to 5 job. Hopefully, in the near
Mm-hmm.
future, and
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. But that's definitely a cool aspect that um, that I think about or try to think about often. But I'm sure there are people who look at it like, this dude, like, he doesn't have to work a job, and that's great. But do you know the work that I'm putting in behind the scenes so I
Right.
don't have to work a normal job?
Yeah, and this academy you're currently at, and we could cut this out if you don't want it in there. But like, I was curious, do you have to pay to go there? Or do they do it? Is it like an invite, or how does that work?
I mean, yeah, it is. It does cost money to attend.
Hmm.
Some guys have their agent pay. Some people don't. So, but it does overall cost money. I mean, all these
Okay,
places do.
that's what I figured.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So but it's a good investment, I think.
of
No matter
course.
who's doing it, you or your agent. But yeah, it's definitely a much needed investment.
Okay, and then I know we went over a little hour here, and I don't want to hold you up too much, but one or two more things. So when you're obviously you're looking at this draft class right now, I've been hearing about for months now. It's a very defensive heavy draft, which, in my opinion, that's very good for you, because that means that's just that much more for those little stars to come out of nowhere for offensive linemen or little offensive, because I'm hearing about, like I said, just defensive heavy. Do you look at it that way? Like, do you look at this draft class right now and see where you could be at?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, there's a fair amount of offensive linemen, especially when you're looking at guys like, it's not talked about a lot. Like, you talk about the big names, and then you look at the first few rounds of the draft. You're looking at some of the centers and offensive linemen, but there are a lot of guys that are trying to go in the draft that will probably go as undrafted. And so there is, when you look at it in its entirety, there are a lot of guys.
Hmm.
So for me, like I said before, I can't control that. It is what it is. I think you're seeing a lot of guys because of that COVID year. You had a lot of guys who returned, that are now coming out and have no more eligibility. So you are seeing more overall players in this draft. But for me, it's just finding ways to stand out and be different and be the guy that they want to take. So that's really all I focus on day in and day out.
Are you going as a center or just as any offensive lineman position?
I mean, I have a lot of versatility in the interior positions. I don't necessarily have the size that they're looking for to obviously play tackle. I've never played tackle besides in high school.
Hmm.
So, center is my most natural position, but I really can play either guards as well. So just try my best to be as versatile as possible. So I have more value.
Right, and that's what I like to hear, and then obviously you're saying, come the combine. I mean, look at what happened to DK Metcalf. Dude came out absolutely yoked, and then put off a crazy performance. And who's to say you're not the next DK Metcalf for offensive lineman? You know what I mean? Like, put out these random numbers.
I wish I was as ripped as him, but
I mean that
yeah,
he's a weapon though. He's a wide receiver, so that's different.
it is a little different. But I mean, you never know. I could, generate an 8-pack over the next 4 weeks and try to run the 40 with my shirt off and look ripped, but I don't think that's going to happen like that. So
Start doing
I'm still going to look good, but I'm not going to look DK Metcalf good.
start doing crunches upside down, front
I
of
need
table
to
or something.
do, yeah, I need to do more than crunches to look like him.
um, so let's so okay, and then here's one more question I really wanted to hit on before we kind of wrap it up. So as you're looking, I'm sure you're gonna, if I asked you what team do you want to play on, you're gonna say whatever team gives you a chance, because that's what I say. I mean, I don't care what team I'm on, right? But because the team that gives you a chance, obviously you're going to be thankful for that, and you want to give them the best version of you, so you can kick ass and show them why they saw what they saw in you. But my question is for you: do you look at any teams and think about they need an offensive lineman or center, and I can help them? Like, one team that comes in my mind right now, and they're in the AFC Championship, is the Bengals. Their offensive line is god awful. And who's to say you're not the next center giving it to Joe Burrow, fucking passing it to Jamar Chase for a touchdown, beating the Chiefs, going to Super Bowl, you know what I mean? Like, or winning Super Bowl, you know, who's to say that's not you right there? So like, do you look at that type of stuff?
I mean, yeah, I love watching the NFL, so I watch it every weekend. I definitely see some teams that um, might need help on their offensive lines. It's tough for me to say what teams because you don't know necessarily what kind of coaching goes into it, what they're being told. But there are definitely teams that I think are going to be looking to build their offensive lines, and like you kind of already touched on it, but I really would be happy anywhere that wants to take me, and especially one that needs to be building their offensive line because I think I can absolutely help that. So we'll see. We'll see what teams are looking for, and we'll go from there.
Hunter, I'm very happy to call you a friend. I'm happy that we met in Penn State and continued a good friendship.
Likewise.
And I appreciate it. And I would love, obviously I would love to keep the journey going, have you on, keep little updates here and there. So, you're more to, I'll probably reach out to you definitely again to come on. That's after you get signed. We'll do that. And, but, or drafted. Is there anything that I hit on that that I didn't hit on that you kind of want to hit on quick at all?
No, I mean, I think we hit on a lot of good things. I think it's important that people understand what goes behind the scenes for both of us and doing what we do. And I think we touched on that. This was pretty awesome.
All right, cool. And then where can people follow you at to follow your journey?
So on Twitter, I'm @_Hunter Kelly_. On Instagram, I'm @theofficialHK, no spaces, nothing like that. So you can find me on those two platforms, and you can follow from there.
Perfect. And then here's something I started. I've always asked this question to every podcast episode, but I started doing it as like a little playlist. I'm gonna have on my YouTube page. But what advice could you give? Normally I would say anybody, but I now I'm focusing on what I'm specifically talking to that person about their title. So what advice would you give to an offensive lineman or an NFL or hopeful or any sports hopeful, maybe an underdog status? What advice would you give to them to get to the position of getting there?
Well, you need to do whatever it takes, no matter what position you play, no matter what sport you play. Doing whatever it takes is really kind of like the baseline, right? That should be the standard for you, especially if you're an underdog. You need to have that chip on your shoulder and go in and work every day, knowing that nobody's going to outwork you. And just make sure, specifically for offensive line and football in general, like get in the weight room, get strong, work on your speed when you can, work on your offensive line drills, break it down to the smallest technique that can help you, and know your playbook, know your position, know your sport in general, like know what's going on. Like if you're looking to go into college, like and play college football, watch college football, like watch how those guys play. Watch if you play offensive line, watch how a college football offensive lineman plays. What do they do? You can try to emulate things that they do, and try to get ahead in that aspect. So honestly, that's it. Just be the smartest guy in the room in terms of you don't need to be necessarily book smart, but know your playbook, know how your offense or how your defense works, and just know it better than anybody else, and then just work harder than everyone else, and you'll get there.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, and it's a great advice. And even in general, just keep working hard wherever you want, whatever talent you have, and keep striving for it, or want to have your passions and go for it. But yeah, I mean, here's the outro, and then you just stay on for a couple minutes after. But we just went on a limb. Now you continue to go to the tree by doing something different. It's for yourself. Peace.
See ya.